First off, thank you guys for showing up. Kind of a really cool story to be able to give to everybody. First off, my name's Rob Scheer, Robscherer. I'm a sergeant with the Phoenix Police Department's Public Affairs Bureau. I'll introduce the 91 John sergeant and officers next to me, just to give you just some context. 91 John's within our Cactus Park precinct. They work overnight. That's what they do. It's a really unique area that they work, presented with some unique obstacles at times, but these guys get after it and get after it on a nightly basis. So next to me is going to be 91 John Sergeant. It's Sergeant Michael Guadagnino. In the middle is going to be Officer Tony Lara, and on the furthest from me is going to be Officer Mark Bourbon. All were present on this incident, and hopefully you guys have seen the video. If you guys need the raw, let me know and I can get you some of the raw. As far as this incident, early morning hours, a little bit in between 2 and 3 in the morning on October 31st, 2024, these officers responded to a collision. Basically, the call details indicated that a car had went into an apartment pool just north of 35th and Indian School. Officer Lara was the first on scene. There's actually 2 pools within this complex. Didn't see the car in the first pool, obviously got to the second pool and recognized the car was there. There was no indication that anybody was inside. He couldn't really see through the water, but there was no indication that anybody had gotten out either. I'm kind of basing that off of car went into pool, probably occupied. Once his sergeant and Officer Bourbon got there, they went and moved to make entry into that car. As you've seen through the video, once entry was made, they were able to rescue the man that was inside that car and get him to safety. He was treated by fire and transported for precautionary reasons, but no severe injuries, minor injuries at best, resulted from the heroic actions of these officers. They'll be humble. You'll hear a lot of similar statements, but this is what these guys do on a daily basis. This is what will happen tonight, across the city. I know Officer Lara is going to go back out to the street tonight, and he'll be willing to do the same thing. I'll open it up for some questions for these guys, and then we'll close it up afterwards. But after that, the floor is you guys. Any questions you have?
Well, if you guys don't mind just kind of describing the night from your perspective and what all happened as you guys got that call.
Want to kick it off, boss?
You got it, Tony. I'll follow up on you.
It's just like any other night. Show up for work, go into briefing, hit the streets, answer a couple of calls for service for the community. This one, just like any other emergency call, we get the information. We get there, and the information provided was that a car went into an apartment complex pool. I happened to be 2 blocks away, or 2 to 3 blocks away. That's why I got there so quickly. But ended up finding this apartment complex, like Sergeant said, has 2 pools. Went to the first one, didn't see it, then went to the north pool, and that's when I discovered the car inside the pool.
And how did you know what to do to help this man?
There's really no training for something like this. You just have to take account into what you have, the information that was provided to you, and just use common sense. Cars don't go into pools by themselves. Normally it gets driven into a pool or into a body of water. Noticing that all the doors and windows were closed, that means that nobody exited. Also, when I arrived, I asked, and he asked a couple of people, hey, did you see anybody get out the car? People were like, no one got out the car. So that led me to believe that whoever drove the car into the pool was still inside the vehicle.
So can you describe your process of how you went about getting that person out?
So the first thing, as you can see by the video, is I arrive, tell my dispatcher, hey, car's inside the pool, I'm by the north pool. My boss gets on the radio, he asks me where I'm at, and I told him, hey boss, I'm by the north pool, my police vehicle is parked right by the pool. Right away I noticed I have to take all this gear off, it's heavy. You do not want to go into a body of water with all this because you go straight down once you take on all that water. So I took my gear off, waited for another partner to arrive. Once my boss got there, he got out of his vehicle. I could see his thought process. He was going towards the trunk of his vehicle. So I knew that he was thinking the same thing. I just yelled it out to him. I was like, hey, boss, Halligan. He pops open his trunk. He grabs a Halligan, and he comes walking towards me.
So it was just a typical night. We were on duty answering calls for service as we do. This one, a little more interesting because it's not every time that we have a vehicle in a body of water, and we don't have any formal training for this. But as the call progressed, we're trying to develop information of if we did have someone still in there, because as the minutes go by, the less chance of survival they have for someone in there. So Tony arrived on scene, and I followed shortly after, and I saw the state that he was in, so he had a plan put together already that he was prepared to enter this vehicle. And without talking much, we knew what the plan was, and I agreed with his plan, so we were going to set it up to be as safe as possible. We did get the Halligan tool out because it would be our most effective way to make entry if we had to at this time. And as we were putting our plan together, we were still gathering information from people on scene because we wanted to make sure if someone was driving the vehicle, were they out in the crowd? Were there any passengers out in the crowd? And every response we got to someone exiting the vehicle was a no. So the more information we developed, the higher likelihood that we did have someone in there. The car was completely submerged by the time we got there, and we were approximately in the 8 to 10 minute range from when the call went out to us being able to provide this action. So we absolutely had to have decisive action and an immediate response. And the plan was already put together when I got there. Tony knew what the plan was, and I agreed with it. So we just put the plan into action as safe as we could because we don't have formal water rescue training. But the communities here, we're here to serve the community, and sometimes that means jeopardizing our own lives. And Tony here had no problem putting his life on line because entering water with a vehicle could shift, he could fall in. There's many things that could happen, and disregarding his own safety, he decided to put that citizen's life ahead of his, which is an amazing achievement. I'm very proud of him for that. Fortunately, this car did have a sunroof because our other forms of entry would have been more difficult, but it was very rapid. Within seconds of us arriving on scene, having the plan developed, we were attempting our entry, we made our entry, and were able to remove the driver from the vehicle.
What was the interaction like with the driver once you were able to pull him up?
So when I try to force entry to a vehicle, I try to do it through the passenger window, and they both said, "Hey, Tony, take the sunroof," and they were able to point that out, which expedited the rescue. Once pulled them out, I think on the video you could hear him. As soon as I lift him, you could hear him taking that big gasp of air. So just based off of that, I think he was running out of time. I think 30 seconds more, and God forbid, it would have been something totally different. Thanks for them for pointing out, hey, the sunroof is going to be your quickest way of entry. That's how we're going to be able to get this guy out of here and possibly save the lives with their help. Like I said, I quickly identified myself as a Phoenix police officer and pulled him out, and you heard that gasp of air. And that's only the type of gasp of air that if you ever experience like swimming and stuff like that, and you stay a little too long underwater, you're like, and so.
In the moment, what went through your mind when you heard that gasp?
He's breathing. That's all I cared about, honestly. He's breathing, fire was there, let's get him out to fire. And the only thing I could think about, and they asked also, was, hey, ask him if there's anybody else inside the car. And I asked, he very low, said no, but obviously just can't take his word, you gotta go searching.
A lot of times those sunroofs have the sliding thing on it. Was that open or closed?
It was open, so if I remember correctly, it was open because I was able to see straight down into the front seats of the vehicle.
And the water completely filled the car at that point?
Yeah, as you can see my legs, and the water's already hitting me about calf height. The car was completely submerged. Later, when we were standing around the pool, I noticed the indication that it was like he was towards the deepest end of the pool, which is 6 feet deep.
Was your heart racing through all of this?
Yes. Yes. My heart was racing, and I was cold after that because the adrenaline had worn off.
Yeah, actually, when he got the guy out. My boss and I were at the back of the trunk of the vehicle. I was able to grab him and ask him if he was okay. And honestly, when he first came out, he was still in shock, as anyone would. And he was just, I guess, just scared of what had just happened. And our biggest concern was anyone else in the pool. And he stated numerous times, like, no, there's no one in there. And then after that, I was like, I want to make sure you're all right. I had the fire department come out and check him out.
You all kind of talked about this kind of unspoken plan. Is that kind of how you guys often work in these situations where you have to act quick? It's you guys can almost read each other's minds of what to do?
More than mine, it's mostly body language. I didn't have to tell my boss. I didn't have to tell him I'm jumping in the pool. By them seeing me taking off my vest, my belt, taking off my boots, he was able to see it like, hey, he's ready to go in. So most of these situations where we go and we don't have time to be like, hey, you're going to be over here and you're going to do this. And yeah, most of it's going to be based off of body language. And if he sees something where I can improve on, he can grab me and be like, hey, Tony, it'll be better if you do it this way. You know, just being open to suggestions. But yeah, most of the time is either non-verbal communication based off of body language.
If you hadn't been only a few blocks away, do you think you'd be sitting here telling the same story today, or it'd be different?
Honestly, it'll be different without the help of them too. It'll be very different. Like I said, I was like 2-3 blocks away. One of those blocks, I had to activate my license sirens to run the red light, which is the big intersection at 35th Avenue and Grand. So that intersection is like really, really big. You have to creep across little by little. Just like, I think, like I said, 30 seconds later, this could have turned out a different situation.
Were you guys able to provide any context of what led up to, was he able to explain? I know he stepped on the gas too hard, but were you guys able to talk with him after the fact about what happened?
Yeah, like how you said, I asked him once fire was treating him, because my first priority was to get him help. Obviously, he's been under the water for we don't know how many minutes he was down there. And yeah, that's what he told me. He's like, I went to hit the brake and I hit the accelerator. He was still kind of in shock when I was talking to him, so I don't know if the accelerator got stuck, which led him to go into the pool. But yeah, it was kind of like a freakish accident that just happened. He said he was parked at this parking spot just south of the pool, and that's what led him to go inside the pool.
Did he talk at all about what he did in the car to either try to get out or get help, if anything?
To me, he did. So after Mark took him over to fire, 2 hours, so like Sarge said, that call came out like around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. He was transported to the hospital. Within 2, maybe 3 hours max, he comes back to the scene. He got discharged from the hospital. So I asked him, like, hey, why didn't you try to self-rescue, break a window, open a door? And I kid you not, his response was, I grabbed my phone and I was telling Siri to call emergency. And I go, from a sinking vehicle? So I couldn't comprehend that. He was like, yeah, I was trying to call 911 from my phone. And I was like, no, we open doors, we break windows, we try to get out. But that was his response. I didn't understand why.
Is he one of the 911 calls that came through? Or?
No. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all the 911 calls was innocent bystanders, right? Like his call never came through. His phone was soaking wet. Like he came out of the car with his phone in his hand, and I'm like, what is this?
Well, what is your recommendations then to anyone who might find themselves in a situation like that?
That I'm not gonna give recommendations like my boss said. We don't have formal water rescue training, but from what I can remember when I was a kid, is like if you feel your car going into a body of water, it's like try to lower the windows, right? Old school windows were the best, where you hand crank them. We don't have those anymore. If you can't lower your windows for whatever reason, your car loses power, wait until that pressure equalizes, like take that deep breath, and then my understanding is once that pressure equalizes, you can open the door. But don't try to call 911 from a sinking vehicle.
Can you kind of go over what you just said about him trying to call Siri again?
When I asked him what he was doing, he said that he was telling Siri to call emergency. And I asked him from a sinking vehicle. He was very adamant that he wanted to call 911 from a sinking vehicle. I was like, okay.
Was he not able to dial 911?
He was speaking to Siri.
Okay.
Don't know.
Any last minute ones? No?
Great stuff. Thanks for
Yeah.
what you guys do.
Yeah.
Question though, might be silly, but you guys been trained on CPR? Just in case it happened?
We get a brief pass through on CPR, and if we had to perform it, I think we'd been competent enough to been able to make that happen.
Yeah, I think what you guys can see is kind of what you kind of talked to, that teamwork. This is not uncommon on squads. These guys, day in, day out, guys and gals are working together, and they have that kind of unspoken language, that it's that body language, and it's also understanding the person you're working with on a day-to-day basis. And you can see what that teamwork and that knowledge of each other and what you're prepared to do on a nightly basis leads to. There's no minimizing what these three did in saving this guy's life, and I think it's mere seconds, like Tony was saying, seconds before we're having a different sort of investigation. So thank you guys very, very much. Thank you guys for doing what you do. I wear the same
I
uniform.
would like to give credit to this guy
Yeah.
right here. You guys would have never known any. I was perfectly fine with the video getting categorized on my body camera and going about my day, and you guys would have never probably even heard anything about this. But this guy right here decided to email Sarge and let him know, hey, this is what happened on this date and time. So had not been for Officer Mark Bourbon, like I said.
Yeah.
To us, this is just another day of work.
Can I just ask what it's like for you guys to watch something like this back after the moment, knowing I'm guessing how much adrenaline there was?
I just see it as, because like how Tony said, I emailed our Public Affairs Bureau. They send out a newsletter every other week saying if you want to highlight some good police work. In my eyes, I was like, this is some good police work. I want to highlight my partner here. But now looking back at the video, like how Tony and my boss said, just another call that we go out and try to help the citizens out. And I'm glad it's getting the recognition. Okay.
Humble, but
Yeah.
they're heroic. I mean, that says it all. So thank you guys very, very much. If you guys need the bra, let me know, and we'll go about doing that. Cool. Thank you.